Hi everyone, welcome to Flipping Heck Business, Flip Learning for AQA A-Level Business Studies. So this is video number 9 for Unit 3 Decision Making to Improve Marketing Performance, and here we're going to be looking at price. So the content here is pricing strategies and tactics. So we've got a selection of our different pricing strategies there, influences on pricing and analysing the decision. So if we're looking at what this actually links to, then we've got elasticity of demand, sales forecasting, unit costs, product lifecycle, gross profit margin, and adding value. So these are all different areas that if you're doing an exam question, then you are able to actually link this back to. So please make sure that you have got a good selection that you can actually link through so you can increase your answers. So what is price? First of all, it is money actually expected, required, or given in payment for something. So everything that a customer has to give up in order to actually acquire a product or service. Now, just a bit of an exam tip is when you are dealing with money, use pounds in your answers or round to 2 decimal places. So that way then, you've always, it is important because it can knock off a little bit of like your answer. And like if you don't put pound, then people might presume that it's in units. If you don't round to 2 decimal places, well, we only use pounds and we use pence. So you need to make sure that you've actually got those down every time. Okay, so stages of price setting. Now, in order to actually decide on your price, you kind of need to go through a bit of a process. So first of all, you've got to develop your pricing objectives, and we'll look at those on the next slide. So then once you've got your objective, then you need to assess the target market's ability to actually purchase. There's no point in trying to actually put your price out there if it's too much for your target market to afford. Then determine the actual demand for the product. So, okay, they can afford it. How many are they going to buy? And then analyze the demand, cost, and profit relationship. So how much demand am I going to get? Well, how much did it cost for me to actually make this? If I sell that amount of demand, then how much profit am I actually going to get? And that is obviously the end goal is to get the profit for the company. And then evaluate your competitors' prices. Am I coming in more than my competitors for a very similar price? Is there something I can do to improve that? And then select your pricing strategy and your tactics, and then finally decide on the overall price itself. So a few objectives that will influence your pricing. So if you're looking at financial side, then objectives such as maximizing your profit, achieving a target level of profits, like 10%, 50%, achieve a target rate of return, maximizing your sales revenue, or improving your cash flow are all sort of financial objectives that will then affect how you price your product. Then we've got marketing. So it could be, are you trying to maintain or improve your market share or defend it against your competition? So beat or prevent competition. And then finally, are you just trying to increase your sales, or are you building a brand? So are you actually like trying to get yourself noticed first, and then you can start maybe putting your prices up once you get that sort of serious customer base. So when we're looking, there are like sort of 3 different areas that we look at. We look at the pricing method, which is the method used to fully calculate the actual price set. Then there's pricing strategies, which are sort of medium to long-term objectives. So how you're actually going to meet those objectives, how you're going to do it over a longer period of time. And then pricing tactics, which are very much a short run. So it could be that new competitors come on the market, or it's a seasonal good, and are usually limited impact beyond the product itself. So it's sort of changes that you need to do quite quickly. Now, the major factors that actually affect price are things such as cost, demand, product lifecycle, market share, marketing objectives, positioning, and competitors. Now, there are videos available for all of these, but they need to be taken into account as soon as you have decided on your price. So once you've done that, you need to then look, well, what are the competitors actually pricing? Where do people see us in the in our positioning, what our marketing objectives is, how much share have we got already, where is the product on the product life cycle, right? So all this needs to be taken into account. Okay, so competitors will significantly influence how pricing is actually set. So price takers are basically, you've got no option but to take the ruling market price. So it could be that the government has set caps, or the competition around you, everybody is still charging the same price. Then there's price makers who are able to actually come along and make their own prices. Maybe they've got exclusivity, or they are the leading brand, and they are able to actually like just put whatever they want. Then there's price leaders who price changes are followed by rivals, and then price followers are the price changing, like they will follow the price changing lead of the market leader themselves. So our first strategy is markup pricing. So this is probably the nice easiest one, which is determined by just adding a fixed amount of profit, fixed amount or profit percentage to the cost of actually making or buying the products. So cost plus, I mean, like, this is another word for it, is cost plus, is widely used in retail as it's fairly accurate on how much profit you will actually make per sale. So it's simple to use. So for example, unit cost might be £100, markup 25%, therefore your selling price would be £125. And at the bottom here we've got an example, which is a dress, which is £9 for the manufacturer to actually make it. So then it's purchased by a distributor, like a wholesaler, who will purchase it for 16, so they've got their profit there. Then 135% markup will take it from them buying it at sort of 16, 17 maybe, going through to 40 is how much they'll price it in the actual wholesaler. And then the retailer will come along, purchase it for 40, and then the recommended retail price might be 90. So you can actually see that a dress that started off at £9 or $9, sorry, can end up at $90 quite quickly just by going through the different sort of delivery channels, the distribution channels of like a wholesaler to the retailer, then finally to the customer. Now, the advantages of this strategy is that it is very easy to set up. Like, you just sort of come up with a markup price that you want to use and use it. And it's easy to compare if all the industry do it. So if this is a fairly standard practice across the industry, it's very easy to actually do and compare it. It's easy to keep track of profit and cash flow, so you know how much you're getting in and out. And then if costs increase, then you'll have to increase prices too. So it can make you, if you suddenly goes up from £100 a unit to 105, then you have to put that price up, which can make you a little bit less flexible if there is dynamic market environment. So if there's a lot of changes going on, like say fluctuations with raw materials or competitor pricing, then it might find you a little bit like priced out of the market if they're using different strategies. And then you need to carefully work out the initial markup price to make sure you are competitive. Make sure that you're not losing cost. If your competitors are getting everything a lot cheaper than you, then they're able to charge less than you. So you need to keep competitive with them. Okay, so when we're using cost to actually influence pricing, then benefits are that, like, by using cost, it's actually quite easy to calculate. The price increases can be justified when the costs do rise. So, well, it went up £5, we need to put ours up £5. And then managers can be confident each product is being sold at a profit. You know exactly how much you are getting. The drawbacks, however, is that it ignores price elasticity of demand. So, like, if you get bigger and bigger, then your cost will actually go down. So you would like end up having to go down with it. But if your prices change because maybe you've gotten a bit smaller, you've not got the purchasing power, then you might find, oh well, actually we're going to have to lower our prices. We're going to have to put our prices up just because the cost have gone up. Might not take into account any kind of competition. Profit is lost if price is set low, below that the customer are actually prepared to pay. And then sales are also lost if price is set above the price customers are willing to pay. And then finally, business has less incentive to actually control those costs. Okay, the next one is competitor pricing. So this is basically where you set your prices based on what your rivals are charging. So the example here, we've got $90 for competitor 1, $99 for competitor 2. So you might find yourself somewhere in the middle at $95. Right, so you might use then your USP to try and gain sales rather than just price, because not everybody is concerned with price. They might be looking for something a little bit more. So advantages are that price is not a competitive disadvantage. Right, just because you're the cheapest doesn't mean that everybody is going to go to you. You can combine it with other strategies, and you can make price sensitive customers very, very happy. And then of course it avoids revenue loss in a race to the bottom. So right, well, they're going to put their price a little lower, I'll put mine a little lower, they'll put theirs a little lower, etc., etc., until eventually you're not making any profit. And then disadvantages are that it's difficult to implement if it's a small company, because you might not have the economies of scale. Like your competitors, if they're a lot bigger, are able to price lower because they're actually getting their goods lower and their costs are lower. It doesn't work in all markets. So like premium products, people don't mind paying a little bit more. They're looking for service, they're looking for something extra. And then it may distract from other business tasks as well. Right, penetration pricing. So this is like introductory offers. So basically it looks at you coming in at a very low price, so you gain market share quickly, and then it builds on customer loyalty and customer usage. And usually then the price can then increase once the target market share is reached. So things like subscriptions, they are usually done with penetration pricing. So like £75 a month is the example here for 12 months and £129 a month afterwards. If you don't like it, you'll have to call up, get a new deal, they'll lock you into a new contract, right? But they've got you, they've already got you, because there's a lot of fuss that goes into like changing over from Virgin to Sky or BT, etc. So the advantages are that it can catch competition quite off guard. If they're not expecting it, they're going to have to like move to follow you. Encourages word of mouth, so people actually like see, well, this was a good deal, I got this, I got that. Focuses on minimizing costs or risk profits, and also it's like the increased sales volume means that it is actually a little bit easier for distribution, because like a lot more people are going to be buying it, so you can sort of distribute quite easily down the channels with that. Disadvantages, however, is that the customer expectation of low price even after the offer finishes. Well, why are they getting an introductory offer? Why can't I get it? Right? Then you've got a lack of loyalty from bargain hunters, so people do move between Virgin and Sky and BT quite regularly because of these price like changes for fairly similar products. And it raises competition as well. So like you're doing it, everyone else will do it. Then we've got price skimming, which is opposite to price penetration. So it means that you come in high to maximize profit before other competitors can come to the market. So usually aimed at taking advantage of early adopters, and they're the people who they want to be seen as being like sort of exclusively having the product. They want to be seen having it. They want to have it early. Right? And it's best used in introduction or growth stage of the product lifecycle. And then electronic items are usually a good example of this. So like if you look at mobile phones, if you look at like the iPhone, etc., then coming in at £1,200, which is the most expensive like that we've seen for the mass market, or one of the most expensive we've seen for the mass market, people still bought it. Not everybody was waiting for it to actually go down, so they've taken that higher price, put it out there, people bought it, and it means that some of the advantages here come into play. So like the product is seen as a must-have item, which the latest iPhone was. The customers want it, the exclusivity, like I've got the new iPhone, what have you got? And then innovation is expensive, so all those high like costs were paid off very, very quickly just because they came in at such a high price. Right? If they had come in low, then it would have taken longer to get to that break-even point. Disadvantages, however, are that customers may be deterred by high prices. So a lot of people were like, that's way too much for a phone. And then we've got customers can become disloyal. So a lot of people were like, well, okay, so how much is the new Galaxy? And then the image can suffer if the price drops. So if it does start going down, I mean, like if you think about it, the iPhone 8 now, when it came out, it was very expensive. Now it's gone down, 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 and down, and down. And people are saying, well, it's dead, it's old, it's like not a product that I want anymore. A lot of them saying, well, maybe it's an alright phone, but they're not going to go for it because there is a better phone out there. Now the folding phones that are coming out are going to be a good example of this. So like they're coming out at around about £2,000. The Razor's coming out at 1,400. And again, people are going to want to be seen with it because it's a brand new product. Now whether they're any good or not, or whether the market will actually follow suit, is something else to be seen. But they will come down in price. They will come down to like a very reasonable price over the next few years as the technology advances and the sort of market becomes a lot more towards the mass market than the niche. Next, we've got loss leaders. So a loss leader is a product or service that is offered at a price that is not profitable. Now, this is similar to predatory, but not quite as like sort of evil, if you like. So it is sold to attract new customers or sell additional products and services to those customers. And it's common when a business enters the market. Now, an example of this is the PS4. And because PS4 comes out with the Xbox One at the same time, there is a lot of competition to try and get the actual sales in. Now, of course, there are millions of products that come after the initial buying of the console itself. So once the components have been worked out, you can see at the bottom here, we've got $332 roughly is how much it costs to make the actual PlayStation. Now, once you take into account like cost pricing, etc., and markup, then it retailed for $399, which isn't enough to actually have covered all of its costs. So it was actually being sold at a loss. It must have been sold to the retailers at a loss, and or at least very minimal profit. Now, why did they do that? Because they wanted to enter the market. Like, you know, the next gen consoles always come out together, and they want to break into that market and beat the rivals. It's then used to promote the other products or services, in this case games, and then brings in new customers. So it started the console wars. Disadvantages, however, is that it can actually hurt brand perception. So if you're coming in at a loss, a lot of people will be like, well, you know, it's too cheap. I mean, like, it's not going to work properly. Customers might wait for discounts, so a lot of people won't necessarily take the PS4 at the earlier stage. They'll wait a few months and then they'll actually take it on. Now, PlayStation would have paid for all of its costs, each box would be profit, but they'll wait for a few months so it drops in price by another 50 quid. And then it can bring you losses as well. So if you're not making any profit elsewhere, it can actually end up hurting your profit line. Now, psychological pricing. So it appeals to customers emotionally rather than rational responses to price. So people looking for a bargain usually, and it's usually using unusual price points. So like, you know, £19.99 or £995. As if you think that something is £20, that might be too much, but £19.99, well, it's under 20 quid. You will actually be quite more interested in it. But it's a penny. I mean, like, a penny wouldn't even buy you anything these days. So it can make the customer believe that they are getting a cheaper deal. I mean, like, really, what is the difference between someone spending £250,000 on a car, but it will be marked at, say, £249,995? Well, it's £5. It won't even pay for your petrol home, right? So it's simple. The advantages, though, is that it simplifies your decision-making process. You worked out your price, you just sort of knock off a little bit of it, and it gives evidence of value. People see it and they're like, oh well, you know, that's, if you look at the Lamborghini Ursus underneath, oh well, it's under £220,000. So yeah, but by a fiver, no one cares, right? So then you've got evidence of value, so people think they're getting a deal. And it can mean that your items are also itemized first in online searches. So if people are usually looking at things lowest price first, just putting it down by a fiver can actually mean that you are beating a lot of rivals in being viewed first, which make you more likely to get a hit, more likely to get a sale. Disadvantages, however, are that it creates long-term lower price expectations. People are always looking for a bargain. Some customers see through emotional responses and will ignore a product. So they'll actually go for, like, you know, who will give them the better service or USP. And the price being a penny or so lower does not guarantee sales. Plus, of course, if you sell 1 million products at a penny less than the competitors, then that is still going to hit your profit line by quite a considerable amount. Next, we've got dynamic pricing. So this is where it varies price of products or service to reflect changing market conditions. Now, holidays and air flights use this very, very regularly, and it's usually used in conjunction with mobile apps, online sales algorithms. So there's a lot of technology involved here. It takes into account factors such as time, location, day, demand, competitors, how many times someone's actually visited a website. And if you look at the bottom here, so we've got Uber on the left, who, you know, at certain times they will start charging more. So if they haven't got enough drivers in the local area, they'll change their price to meet demand. So the higher demand, then the more they can start to charge. Then you've got the flights in the middle, so cheap flight calculator. So if you're ever buying flights, then it's usually cheaper to actually buy on a Tuesday, a Wednesday or Thursday. and instead of on Friday and Saturday, where people tend to be looking at holidays, they'll put their prices up. For actual flights, like Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Saturdays are actually cheaper than Fridays and Sundays, simply because people are trying to get the most out of their weekend, or they're trying to get the most out of their week. So they will hike up prices a little bit there. And then if you look at the insurance, then if you renew your insurance 21 days before the actual due date, you can actually save hundreds of pounds just by doing it 21 days before, because the insurance companies know that most people will wait until like sort of close to the time, and they can get away with putting their prices up because you haven't got a choice. So the advantages are that it maximizes profit for each individual customer, can adjust prices quickly, and can be used to actually adjust sales and take advantage of seasons or demand changes. So it's an individual pricing almost. Then you've got disadvantages are things like customer alienation. So like not everybody is like willing to do it. If you go on a website and it's gone up 2 or 3 times, then you might not be interested in actually taking the product. However, if you go on like a couple of times and it's gone up and up, then it might actually be something that you will buy because you'll have a fear of loss. And then you've got customers are learning tricks and going against companies' tactics, as you can see below. And then it requires advances in technology to actually implement, because you can't have one person there going like, oh well, we've got this amount of demand. You need something there that will run it for you. Then we've got premium pricing, so this is setting it high to give an impression of high quality and exclusivity. So it tends to require very inelastic goods and some USP to actually give you something extra, and it's niche over mass markets here. So advantages are that there are higher profit margins, you get a cult status, so brilliant reputation, and there's no bargaining with customers. They're coming in expecting to pay a higher price and they pay it. Short term though is that if there's a competitive response is very strong, so if you've got new competitors coming in, similar products of a higher quality, they might come in at a lower price. You'll have to drop yourself to meet them, and it may keep businesses small or lose their exclusivity, right? So are you niche or are you going mass market? And then marketing or branding can be very expensive to maintain that air of quality. The last one is predatory pricing. I know this has been a long video, well done for keeping up with it. So deliberately setting your prices so low that competitors cannot compete and are driven from the marketplace. Now this is similar to loss, but this is a lot more ruthless. So it acts as a barrier to entries for other companies. So like if you're a big company and you are setting your price so very, very low that no one can enter your market, so you end up with like a monopoly on the market, then it is it's very ruthless, and it is very unethical, and it's actually illegal in a lot of companies. So like the USA, Canada, the EU, they actually do not allow predatory pricing. So price can be driven down further than unit costs, so way below the price of actually making the unit. And it's usually that a bigger firm will suffer loss until the competitors leave the market. Now it could be that the firm has got other markets out there that it's in, which will pay off the loss that you're making in this particular one. Now the examples here are Uber. They were known for actually pricing themselves below the taxi fares in a couple of cities in America, and just compensating it with other fares from around the world. So even though they were making serious losses there, they drove so many companies into the ground that the government had to step in and force them to raise their prices up. Amazon are known for doing it quite a lot, and even Stagecoach have done it in a few cities in the UK, where again they've been offering free bus rides to drive their competition out of a particular town or city. So free buses all the way around, and the competitors just obviously cannot compensate that compared to the big company that Stagecoach is. So advantages: put off competitors from entering the market, reduces your current competition, and it allows firms to dominate the market. However, the disadvantages are that it's illegal in several economies, it's only a short-term strategy, and it can cost a lot of money before the competitors actually leave the market. So if it's two big companies going against each other, that could take a long time and severe losses to profit. Right, thank you very much for watching. That was a very long video. So just make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications, and then video 10 will be following very, very shortly. Have a good day.